Hello friends. In this video we're going to learn about 30 idioms and expressions that come from the idea that life is like a game of football.
Didn't Dad always say life is like football?
In a previous video, I talked about how the game of baseball has traditionally been America's favorite sport, and therefore, we have a lot of idioms and expressions in American English that come from baseball. However, things started to change near the end of the 1900s in America, so that by the beginning of the 1970s, football had become America's most popular sport. Many American children, especially boys, grow up playing football. They start when they are little and continue through high school. They spend many hours practicing and playing, so football becomes a big part of their lives. And parents spend many hours watching their children play football. So football is a community-building sport in the United States. This is especially true when it comes to professional football. Most Americans have a favorite football team, and they love to show their support through going to games, wearing team gear, and having parties on game days. Because of this, American football has become a big part of both American culture and language. And when something is a big part of the culture and language, it usually causes people to start using idioms and expressions related to it. The goal of football is for a team to carry a ball from one end of the field to the other end of the field. However, the action is not continuous. Each team will line up facing each other and start and stop the action in a series of plays. The play begins when a player on the offensive team, the center, hands the ball to the leader of the play, who's called the quarterback. Before the play starts, the quarterback has given his team instructions on what to do in the play. But sometimes the quarterback changes his mind right before the play starts. And this brings us to our first idiom: to call an audible. To call an audible means to change your actions or plans shortly before you do them, because the situation has changed somehow. So the quarterback is the one who is leading the play, but sometimes he looks at the other team and decides they need to do a different play. And so he'll call something out loud or make some hand signs to his teammates to let them know that the play is changing. Audible means that you can hear it. So calling an audible means he's doing something that they can understand to change the play. So people will use this idiom when they're going to change a plan after they've already discussed the plan. For example, it looks like the restaurant we were going to eat at tonight is closed. I guess we'll have to call an audible and go somewhere else. Our next idiom is carry the ball. To carry the ball means to be the person who makes progress on a task or completes it. Because remember, in football, the goal is to carry the ball, and here's the ball, from one end of the field to the other. So the person who's carrying the ball is the person who's making progress in a situation. For example, I want to say a special thanks to Jill for all the work she's done. She really carried the ball on this project, meaning that maybe at a work project, Jill was the one who was making the most progress, so we can say she carried the ball. The next idiom is to drop the ball. So if the person who's holding the ball is responsible for making progress, let's say they drop the ball. Well, then that's a mistake and progress can't be made. So this idiom means to forget to do something that you are responsible for. Because the person carrying the ball is responsible for making progress. If a person drops the ball, then that means they usually forget to do something. For example, I'm sorry, I forgot to bring the ice and the drinks for the party. I dropped the ball on that one. I'll go to the store quickly and pick some up now.
Tonight could change your life. The folks out there make a phone call. You could be a Blue Note signee, an EMC client, a Lincoln Center core. On the other hand, if you drop the ball, you might be looking for a new line of work, because the other thing about these cats is they never forget.
Our next idiom is move the ball forward. So this is kind of like carry the ball, and it just means to make progress toward a goal. Because again, the goal of football is to carry the ball from one end of the field to the other. So if you are moving the ball forward, you are making progress toward the goal. For example, I've got an essay due tomorrow and I haven't even started yet. I'll start writing the first paragraph now so I can at least move the ball forward a little bit. The next idiom is to run with the ball. And this means to make progress very quickly or with a lot of energy toward the goal. So you can see here, this player is carrying the ball and he's running very fast. He's trying to beat the defensive players. So running with the ball is one of the fastest ways to make progress toward the goal. For example, great job on this report, Jim. You really ran with the ball on this one. Our next idiom is get blindsided. And this means to have something bad happen unexpectedly. For example, if you look over at the picture here, you can see this is the quarterback. He has the ball, but there's another player, a defensive player, who's hitting him from behind. So if the quarterback drops the ball, or if he gets tackled to the field, tackling is when one of the defensive players takes the offensive player to the ground. So if this player tackles him, or if he drops the ball, then the play is over. Now, we call this blindsided because the quarterback cannot see this player behind him. He's looking forward on the field, not behind him. And so this is what's called his blind side. It's the side of his body that he can't see. So to get blindsided is to have something bad happen unexpectedly because this hit from behind was unexpected for the quarterback. For example, it's always a good idea to check the weather report before you go on vacation so that you don't get blindsided by really bad weather. That way, you can pack the right kind of clothes or change your travel plans. And our next idiom is political football. And this idiom means an issue that politicians from different political parties argue about in order to help their party look stronger or better. So in politics, there's usually issues, for example, gun ownership or abortion or things like that, that the different political parties will argue about. And in this comic, you can see there's an elephant and a donkey, and these represent the two major political parties in the United States. The elephant represents the Republican Party, and the donkey represents the Democratic Party. And so these parties will argue over these issues in order to get more people to support them or to get more votes. And so they'll use these issues as kind of a football to, like I said, win an election or to get more support. And so you can see in this comic here, they're even arguing about what they mean by football. For example, every time there is an election for president in the United States, the economy becomes a political football, as the Republicans and Democrats blame each other for high prices or high unemployment. Then, after the election, neither party seems to do anything about the problems they complained about. So they're just using the issue as a way to get support or win an election. It's not that they really care about it. Our next idiom here is to fumble, or to fumble something. So we can have some kind of an object here. And this means to make a mistake with something that you are responsible for. Remember, in football, the person who's carrying the ball is responsible for making progress. Now, sometimes the person who's carrying the ball will drop the ball in the middle of the play, and this is called a fumble. So if you fumble something, you are making a mistake with something that you're responsible for. So this is a little bit different than dropping the ball. Dropping the ball as an idiom usually means to forget something. Fumbling usually means to make a mistake while you're trying to do something. For example, can you help me with these questions from our math homework? I don't want to fumble on the quiz tomorrow. The next idiom is to move the goalposts. And this means to change requirements or expectations for something when the situation is already happening, usually in order to make it more difficult for the other person to be successful. So in American football, you will see at either end of the field these big poles or posts. These are called the goalposts, and they are in the ground. They can't really move. They're fixed in one place. And so sometimes a team can score points, 3 points, if they can kick the ball through these goalposts. So this guy is about to kick the ball and he wants to get through the goalposts. Now, he's able to do this because he knows the distance between the ball and the goalposts. You can see the distances on the field here. Now, if somebody was to move these goalposts, it would make it much more difficult for him to score the points or to kick the ball through. So they're in the middle of the game, and if somebody moved the posts, it would make it, like I said, much more difficult. So moving the goalposts is to change the requirements or expectations because it's expected that he will kick the ball through the posts. So you're changing requirements or expectations when the situation is already happening because they're in the middle of the game here. So, for example, the problem with customer service is that customers are constantly moving the goalposts. If you give them free shipping, they want free 2-day shipping. If you give them a 10% discount, they want a 20% discount. If you're open 6 days a week, they want you to be open 7 days a week and on holidays. Many customers are never satisfied, no matter what you do. So in this example here, it's the customer who's moving the goalposts for the business. They are changing what they expect from the business while they're in the middle of doing business. Our next idiom is to throw a Hail Mary. Now this one is interesting because you have to understand some of religious culture too. So to throw a Hail Mary is to try something big that will probably not be successful, but hoping it will be successful because you really want to be successful. So in American football, one of the ways to move the ball down the field is to throw it. So here the quarterback is about to throw the ball to a receiver or somebody who catches the ball. Now, you can do short throws or you can do very long throws. A Hail Mary is a very long throw. But the longer the throw, the less likely that the receiver will catch the ball. So he is throwing a Hail Mary because in the Christian faith, particularly in the Catholic Church, one of the prayers is called a Hail Mary. So this is a very common prayer in the Catholic Church. So it's like this player probably won't be successful in throwing the ball to the receiver. So it's like he's going to say a prayer before he throws the ball, hoping that the receiver will catch it. It's unlikely that he'll catch it, but he's going to say the prayer. He's going to say the Hail Mary before he throws it. So, for example, when a student doesn't know the correct answer to a question on a test, they often throw a Hail Mary and write a very long answer, hoping that the teacher will give them points just for writing so much, or hoping that the correct answer will be somewhere in their long answer.
Okay, what's our backstory?
We're brothers from New Hampshire. We're venture capitalists.
I'm sick of that. Let's be from Vermont, and let's have an emerging maple syrup conglomerate.
Wait, that's stupid. We don't know anything about maple syrup.
I happen to know everything there is to know about maple syrup. I love maple syrup. I love maple syrup on pancakes. I love it on pizza. I like to take maple syrup and put a little bit in my hair when I've had a rough week. What do you think holds it up, Slick?
It's the first quarter of the big game. You want to toss up a Hail Mary.
Our next idiom is handoff. And this means to give responsibility for a task to somebody else. Now remember, in American football, the ball is the big responsibility. So one of the ways that they can move the ball down the field is for the quarterback to hand the ball to another player, called a running back. And so the runner will take the ball and he'll run down the field. And so this action of the quarterback handing the ball to the runner or the running back is called a handoff. So he's handing off the ball. In other words, he's handing off the responsibility in the situation. For example, John didn't have time to finish shoveling all the snow before leaving for work. So he had to hand it off to his son to finish clearing the driveway and sidewalks. Our next idiom is huddle. This means to talk about a plan or goal in a small group. As I said at the beginning of this lesson, the quarterback is responsible for coming up with a plan for what the offensive team, will do during the play. So between plays, the team will get together in a small group like this, and this gathering is called a huddle. So the team will huddle, the quarterback will tell them what the plan is for the next play, and then they will leave the huddle and go line up. They call it, at the end of the huddle, they'll go break, and everybody will go to their positions to start the play. So a huddle is to talk about a plan or goal in a small group, and it comes from this action in football. For example, the Smiths had a family huddle to talk about their plans for summer vacation. Now, huddle can be used as a verb, and it can be used as a noun. In this example, huddle is being used as a noun, but it can also be used as a verb. We huddled, for example. Our next idiom is run interference, and this means to distract or stop people from doing something in order to protect someone else in a situation. So the goal in football is to move the ball from one end of the field to the other. And as I've said in some of the other idioms, the offensive team, can move the ball either by running with it or by throwing it. Now here in this picture, the receiver is waiting for the ball. The ball is in the air because the quarterback threw the ball. So this would be the offensive player. Now this is the defensive player. He's trying to stop the receiver from catching the ball. So he is interfering with the catch. He's trying to get the receiver to miss the catch. So he's distracting him or interfering with him. So to run interference, because he runs to get there, is to distract or stop people from doing something. So he's trying to distract or stop the receiver from catching the ball in order to protect someone else in a situation. So he's trying to help his team by making this receiver miss the ball. So for example, Bill always comes in to work late. You've got to stop helping him out by running interference for him with the boss, or you'll get in trouble too. Our next idiom is kick off something, and the something here would be some object. And this means to begin some activity. So a football game is divided into 4 quarters. At the beginning of a quarter, the quarter will start when one of the teams kicks the ball down the field to the other team. This is called the kickoff. Once the player kicks the ball, then the quarter will start and all the play will start. So the kickoff is really the beginning of the quarter or the beginning of the game altogether. For example, hello everyone, we're going to kick off class today by playing a game. So here, the thing that's beginning is class, and they're starting class by saying kickoff. We're going to kick off class. So kickoff here is really a synonym for to start. Now a related idiom is a kickoff rally or meeting or some other thing here. We can have different nouns in the place after this. So this is basically the same thing. It's just the grammar is a little bit different. So this means the first rally, meeting, luncheon, etc. in a series of planned activities. So here in the previous one, kick off, and sometimes you'll see a hyphen in there. This is usually used as a verb because then we have an object here. Now kick off here, there's no spaces in between, or sometimes you'll see the hyphen here. And this is used as a noun, or it's like an adjective here because there's a noun after it. So if an organization or a business is going to start a series of activities, the first one in the series, they will call the kickoff. And so you'll see this frequently with political campaigns. The first stop in the political campaign will be the kickoff. So they'll call it a kickoff rally. For example, at the beginning of a new school year, colleges and universities like to have kickoff events like lunches, games, and informative speeches. Our next idiom is pile on, and this means to say negative things to or about somebody or something when many other people are doing it as well. So in football, the play ends when the defensive team can get the ball from the offense, or they can tackle one of the offensive players to the ground. So you can see here, this player probably has the ball. We can't see it in the picture, but we can guess he has the ball. So these are all defensive players. So one of the defensive players tackled the offensive player, and the rest of the players pile on top. So because there's so many people here, we call it a pile. A pile is when you stack many things together. So they are all piling on this player here. So you will see this idiom more often in social media or in news articles in the comment sections when a lot of people are disagreeing with somebody or saying negative things about something. They're piling on. For example, when our science experiment didn't work, everyone piled on Ben because he was the person who did most of the work. Our next idiom is play by play. And this means to describe each thing that is happening in a situation while it is happening, or explaining something that happened with many details. As I said at the beginning of this lesson, a football game is not continuous. There are a series of plays. So that means the action starts and the action stops. So it's divided into all of these plays. Now, people who are watching the game on television, the newscasters, the people who do the news or the reporting on the sports, they will watch the game and they'll try to explain what's happening to the other people who are watching, just the regular people. And so they will describe what's happening in detail, and we call this a play-by-play. That means they're giving all of the details of what's happening. And you can see an example here in this picture. This is what somebody would see on their TV screen, for example. They would see them circling things and drawing arrows. They're trying to explain what's happening in the play. For example, the problem with social media is that some people want to give a play-by-play of everything that happens in their life, or of every conversation that they have. We don't need to know everything about everyone. It's too much information. Our next idiom is to punt something. And this means to delay doing something until a later time, or to give a task or responsibility to someone else when you don't want to do it. Now, the goal of an offensive team is to carry the ball or to throw it more than 10 yards in 4 plays. They call them downs, in 4 downs. So 10 yards is about 10 meters. If the offensive team cannot move the ball forward more than 10 yards in the 4 plays, then they have to give the ball to the other team. Now, they don't necessarily want the other team to have the ball where the ball is. They want them to go farther back on the field to make it harder for the other team. So sometimes the offensive team will punt the ball. Punting the ball is kicking it not to make a goal, but to make the defensive team receive the ball farther back on the field. So what they're doing is they're trying to make it harder for the defensive team to make it to the other end of the field, so they'll kick the ball. So we use this idiom when we're trying to delay doing something until later, or to give a task or responsibility to someone else. So you're punting it. So if you want to delay, you can say, I'm going to punt it to next week. Another example here is, I was supposed to finish my homework right after class, but I decided to punt it to tomorrow since I want to see that new movie. Our next idiom is armchair quarterback. And this means to tell someone else how they should do something when you are not involved in the situation or don't have experience in the situation. As I said at the beginning of this lesson, the quarterback is the person on the offensive team who is responsible for organizing the plays. So an armchair quarterback is, you can see here in the picture, basically somebody who's not involved in the situation. So this guy is just watching the football game on TV, But imagine if he was telling the football team what to do, like he's the quarterback, but he's not involved in the situation. The chair that he's sitting in, we call it an armchair. So the armchair is this thing here, because it has arms, places you can rest your arms. For example, if you don't like the way things are, don't just be an armchair quarterback and tell other people how they should fix the situation. Try to fix it yourself. Our next idiom is kind of like armchair quarterback, but it's called Monday morning quarterback. And this means to give an opinion or criticism about how something should have been done after it is already over. So the difference between Monday morning quarterback and an armchair quarterback is an armchair quarterback is somebody who is giving advice during the situation, and a Monday morning quarterback is somebody who is giving an opinion or criticism after the situation is already over. Because usually the games in the United States are played on like a Sunday. So if the football game is played on a Sunday and somebody is giving an opinion or criticism about the game on a Monday, that means the game is already over. For example, one of the difficult things about reading history is avoiding the temptation to play Monday morning quarterback. When we read history, we already know the results of what happened. But the people who actually lived those events didn't know what would happen. So they had to make choices based on the real life situations they were in. Our next idiom is to make an end run. And this means to try to do something by avoiding a person or a thing like a manager or a rule that might stop you or slow you down. So in a football game, the offensive team and the defensive team line up facing each other. Now the defensive team is trying to stop the offensive team from carrying or throwing the ball down the field. Now if the offensive team is going to run the ball, it's very difficult to run the ball through the defensive team. And so what they might try to do is to run the ball around the end of the defensive line. So this would be the end of the defensive line here. And so they're making a run around the end. So it's an end run. For example, when the President of the United States wants to make some change in the country, but knows that there are not enough votes to make it a law, he will usually just make an end run around Congress by creating an executive order. So if you look at a lot of what presidents in the United States do these days, a lot of it is done by executive order, not by law. Our next idiom is to cheer from the sidelines. And this means to encourage someone in a specific situation when you are not in that situation yourself. So on the football field, on the sides of the football field, we call these the sidelines. On the sidelines will be other players, there'll be the coaches, there'll be cheerleaders, and so there are a lot of people standing on the sidelines. They're not playing in the game. Maybe they're waiting to play or they're trying to coach somebody. But to cheer from the sidelines, people who are cheering are encouraging. So to cheer from the sidelines means you're there near the situation, but you're not in the situation yourself, and you're just trying to encourage people who are in the situation. For example, it's good that a husband can be in the room now while his wife is having a baby. That way, he can cheer from the sidelines as she is working so hard. Our next idiom is to get sidelined. So again, we see this word sideline. So again, if we look at the football field, you can see all of the people here are on the sidelines, and all of the people over here are on the sidelines. So it's the lines on the side of the field. So to get sidelined, this means to be removed from a task or lose an opportunity to someone else. So when you think about the football players on the field, if the coach tells one of those players they have to leave the field, then they are getting sidelined. That means they're being told to go to the sideline. For example, my boss sidelined me at work today because she said I didn't have enough experience for the thing they were working on. Our next idiom is to watch from the sidelines. And this means to watch other people complete a task or project usually when you are part of the group but not allowed to participate. You can be there, but you can't participate. Also, this is different from cheering from the sidelines. Cheering means you're encouraging somebody while you're there watching. But watching from the sidelines, you're just watching. You're not saying or doing anything. For example, since Jeff lost his voice from being ill, he had to watch from the sidelines as his group gave their presentation in class. So the sideline is the place that is near the situation. Our next idiom is to tackle something. Now, I've used this word a couple of times already. To tackle something means to work on a task or a project. So you can see here, this is the offensive player and this is the defensive player. So the defensive player is trying to stop the offensive player, and he will do this by trying to take him to the ground. So once his knees touch the ground, the play is over. So we call this tackling. So he is tackling the player here. That's his responsibility. So the defensive player's responsibility is to tackle the offensive player. So that's why to tackle something means to work on a task or project. It means you're doing your responsibility. You're taking care of it. For example, I'm going to be really busy this weekend. I have a lot of projects to tackle at home. So people will use this idiom or this word a lot just with their regular daily tasks or responsibilities that they have. Our next idiom is to score a touchdown, and this means to be successful in completing something, usually when a group was working on it together. So in football, when the offensive team makes it to the other end of the field, this is called a touchdown. So they're scoring points. So the goal in football is to score points by making a touchdown. You can get the most points by scoring a touchdown. So in football, a touchdown equals success. So if you are successful in completing something, especially in a group, we call it a touchdown. So this is kind of like a home run in baseball. For example, we really scored a touchdown with this science project. Everyone at the science fair was talking about how interesting it is. Our next idiom is a whistleblower, and this means a person who tells others about the bad things or crimes an organization is doing in order to stop the organization from continuing to do those things. So in a football game, there are referees, and they look similar to the referees in soccer. So this guy here, you can see in the black and white shirt, he is a referee, and he has in his mouth a whistle. So he blows this whistle whenever there's a problem with the football play. So if somebody's doing something they shouldn't be doing, he will blow the whistle. So he is a whistleblower. That means it stops the activity, it stops the play. So a whistleblower is anybody in a situation who is trying to expose or show the bad things that the organization is doing. And you'll see this a lot in business. If you read the news, if a business is breaking a law or doing something they shouldn't be doing, and somebody in the organization or the business tries to tell the media or the press or expose it, they will be called a whistleblower. For example, some people think that Edward Snowden is a hero for being a whistleblower and sharing information about some of the dishonest things the U.S. government has been doing secretly. Other people think he is a traitor who should be arrested for sharing government secrets. What do you think? Related to this is the verb phrase, blow the whistle. So to blow the whistle is to tell others about the bad things or crimes an organization is doing in order to stop the organization from continuing to do those things. So the whistleblower is the person. To blow the whistle is the action. For example, our manager at work got fired yesterday. I heard that someone blew the whistle on him and told the company owner that our manager was stealing money from the company. Our next idiom is time out, and this means to stop doing something for a short time. So in a football game, if one of the teams wants to stop what's happening, then they can call a timeout. And so you'll see here he's making a letter T with his arms. So T for timeout. So you're just trying to stop the situation for a short time in the middle of the situation. For example, the kids at the birthday party were getting too loud and crazy, so the parents had to call a timeout to give everyone some time to quiet and calm down. So a timeout is just trying to stop a situation in order to find out what's going on or to give people time to calm down or get organized again. We also use this in American culture. If a child is being bad, if they're doing something wrong, then sometimes parents will tell them to go to a timeout. So it's like the parent is removing the child from the situation and making them sit somewhere to calm down or to stop crying or whatever. Our next idiom is to take a knee. Now, take a knee can have a couple of different meanings, and so you see here, this is the first meaning. The first meaning of take a knee is to take time to rest, calm down, think, or pray in a difficult situation. So you can see here, this player, he is on his knee. So his knee is right here. So he is taking a knee. For example, when you're having a really difficult day, sometimes you just need to take a knee to stop and think about all the good things in your life and all the things you're thankful for. And that can help to give you the motivation to get through tough times.
So take a knee.
Take a knee. Take a knee. Take a knee, cadet.
Take a knee.
The second definition for take a knee is to ask others to stop what they are doing and listen to advice in a situation in order to talk about how to improve the situation. So if there is a leader in a situation, sometimes they will tell the other people to take a knee, which just means for them to stop what they're doing so that they can listen to the advice the leader is going to give. For example, hey guys, take a knee for a minute. I know you've been working hard all day on cleaning up the house, and there's still a lot left to do. I think the best way to get everything done in time is to split up and each of us can clean a different room. That way we can focus more. And that's it for this lesson. I hope this was helpful and useful for you. If you want to see any examples of how these idioms are used in real life, like in videos or in songs, just look in the description below and you'll find some links. Thanks for watching.
Over 40 years running, still a work of art. A game filled with glory, guts, and heart. It's as good as it gets with this rivalry. The boys and the Giants